Hello, my name is Rose Whalen, and I am taking your class, um, Psychology 5 Self-Awareness, and this is my video for the final project. So, the instructions were to talk about what I learned and how I apply these concepts in my life from each of the chapters. So, I'm going to go in order. Start with chapter 1. And I just wrote some prompts. I don't really have to write a lot of notes because it's about me, so I know me. All right, so chapter 1. So it isn't that I didn't know that we have choices. I know that we have choices in life, but it was kind of a good refresher to think about. Like, for instance, I got a new job and it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. But the thing is, I made the choice to move jobs because of it'll be better for my school schedule. But I'm kind of an outgoing person, and this particular job, you just work by yourself on the computer. So I didn't actually think about it. But I had a choice. And I like how it talks about that because everything I do is pretty much a choice. I work where I work because I choose to. I weigh what I weigh because I choose to. I'm not my finances are in disarray because I choose to. So it kind of changes the perspective. This isn't something that's happening to me. This is something I'm choosing to do because not choosing is a choice as well. So, and I remember, well, Viktor Frankl, he was the psychiatrist that was the Holocaust survivor during World War II with the Nazis. And he has that book, The Meaning of Life. And he says about the choice that even though he was in the concentration camp and all his family dies and the situation is brutal, he had a choice how to respond to that. And that's really big because I think that's the worst thing, to be in a concentration camp. All your relatives are dead, your family, and you're just waiting, when is it going to be your turn to die? And in the meantime, they're treating you very cruelly. So if he could find something positive and say, I'm making the choice on my attitude and how I respond to what's happening to me, I think that's pretty powerful. That I can say the same thing, If I don't like something that much, I have to say, okay, there's certain things out of my control, but what's my choice going to be? So I like that. I have about choices. Even though I knew we have choices, it was just kind of more concrete with examples, and and when I applied it in my life, it just seems like a better mindset. Like, I don't have to do this. I'm choosing to do this. All right. So, another thing in chapter 1 talked about multiple intelligence and learning styles. So, I am an audio learner and a kinesthetic learner, and I like pictures. Now, one thing I know about myself. So I have ADHD. So if I'm presented with something that's really boring, it's hard for me to stay focused. I can do it, but it takes like a Herculean effort. And I also like that because what I learned, or what kind of opened my eyes, is that people do learn differently. And it kind of brings to home about my job. So what I'm learning is that I'm the kind of learner that if you need to show me, and I need to do it a few times so I can get it. Because on certain topics, they did do a lecture, and I kind of gleaned some things from it, but I think actually doing it myself and then asking questions, that's what I think I'm more. So I kind of learned that I'm more of a kinesthetic learner, when in the past I thought I was more audio and I like pictures. And I think I'm audio in the sense that, like, if it's really interesting, or like books on tape, or listening to an interesting lecture, I can absorb it. But if it isn't, then I'm not really an audio learner. So I'm not an audio learner in all cases. It depends. And pictures I like, not so much graphs, but I think pictures can add to it. Okay, an example. So in my other class, my pathophysiology class, they're talking about the thyroid. So they talk about primary, secondary, and tertiary. And I kept on reading and rereading. And it wasn't like getting in here. But my tutor at Chief, he said, "Oh, look at this picture." So she got a picture, and it had what the primary thyroidism is. So your thyroid itself isn't working, and then the secondary is that there's issues with the pituitary, and the tertiary, which is the third, it's issues with the hypothalamus. So they're kind of three different kinds because of their origin. So the picture was nice because it kind of you could go like that, because it starts from your thyroid and then to your pituitary and then to your hypothalamus. So I thought that picture was excellent, and she was showing it to me, and then I copied and pasted in my notes. So that's an example that pictures can work for me. Okay. Oh, mindset. Okay, about growth mindset and fixed mindset. I want to say I have a growth mindset, not fixed. But as I was reading, there are some things that I'm fixed mindset, like video games. My son loves video games, and for the longest time, he wanted me to like play video games and learn that. And I didn't really have a growth mindset. I thought like, oh, it's gonna be boring. I'm not gonna like it. But I never tried it. So, I wasn't really that open to it. If I tried it, then I could say I really don't like it. But if I haven't tried something, how can I say it's boring and I don't like it? So I learned that growth mindset can be on anything. So I think there are parts of my life that I have it. Like, I feel like everything is possible. And if you put the work in, like, you can do it. I don't feel like there's a lot of limits. I'm flexible. I want to try new things. When I was working at St. Francis, I was working in the postpartum unit. Now they also had a nursery unit where all the babies were. So you get cross-trained. But the unit I was in, the nurses were older. I was much younger then. And none of them wanted to go to the nursery because they felt like, ugh. They were in their routine. They were set in their routine, and going to the nursery is a whole different thing than dealing with the mom. And I remember I volunteered, and I would get to go a lot because nobody else wanted to. And I enjoyed it. And I remember once I had to work overtime, and I thought, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. I was washing a little baby and doing the assessment, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And I think that maybe some of the other older nurses, if they would have tried it, they might have liked it, because it's like life at the beginning stages, you know. So if you don't really try it, you don't have a growth mindset. Okay, so you have to be open and flexible. Okay, chapter 2 talks about childhood and adolescence. What did I learn about myself? I guess going about childhood and how maybe things then affect me now, and how it's like your foundation. Something came to mind I haven't thought about in a long time. So when I was in the 3rd grade, I went to this Citrus Elementary. I was in a Christian school, and then I got transferred to this other school because my mom and dad, my mom and dad got a divorce, but then my grandmother and my grandpa got a divorce, so they couldn't pay for the private school anymore. So I was at Citrus, and I felt like you had more freedoms. It's a bigger school. Like, I don't know, they're not watching you so much at that little tiny Christian school that I went. I mean, I felt like you're getting watched. I was upset with Chrissy, who was the principal's daughter, and I don't know, she stole some of my pencils or something. So the way I expressed my anger, I think I broke her pencils in half. I was like, I don't know if I was 6 or 5. Well, not quite sure. Anyway, I got called in by the principal asking why I had done that. And then I explained that she had taken my stuff. You see, any tiny thing, And then also, I was like, I think I was driven there. I didn't like walk there yet. When I was in the 3rd grade, I did walk over there by myself. So, okay, this is what happened. I guess I wasn't crazy about that school because I ditched 30 days, I guess, in the school year. And I would stay at a friend's house, and I'm in the 3rd grade. Like, what's up with that? Anyway, so I had to get pulled out of that school because we were going, I think we were going to go to Mexico for 4 or 5 months, and I went to school over there. And my mom, when she pulled me out and got like the card, for the year, she said, there's a mistake here. It says my daughter missed 30 days out of the year. That is incorrect. And she was very adamant about it. But in reality, it was true. And I was really scared. And then, like, the lady at the desk or the secretary said, oh, miss, it must have been a mistake. It must have been 3. Somehow it was 30. And I was, like, so relieved. They didn't think, I guess, that I would just ditch all those days. And nobody really informed anybody that I had missed so many days. So, I guess, yeah, that was my childhood. And what I learned from that is experiences in your childhood they develop like how you want to be as an adult sometimes. And I didn't really think about that so much. But I think I'm a little rebel inside. And I think it was when I was younger it started. Like, I always want to take a different path. Okay, so yeah, I guess I learned the impact your childhood can have on you. Adolescence for me was okay. I decided to be a nurse at that point, and I was kind of struggling. I had acne, which I hated, and my grandma didn't want me to be a nurse. She was against it, and I had very little freedom. So I think what I learned from that is that later on in life, when I'm older, like, I want to be a free spirit. I don't like to be confined. I don't like to be told what to do, because I had a lot of that with my grandma. My grandma was very loving, but she was very controlling. She would be what's called now a helicopter parent. So, yeah, I learned how important setting that foundation is. Oh, and I remember I had a friend. She passed away. And she was a nurse first, and then she became an attorney, and she worked in Colorado. So she worked for the state, and it was about reuniting parents with their kids. So the court system, like, they wanted to place them, with their parents. And a lot. So anyway, Cindy, she couldn't get pregnant. They tried in vitro, they tried a lot, and they decided they were going to adopt. And her friends would say, oh, this is perfect for you because you have access to a lot of kids that might need homes. And she said, unfortunately, those kids are so damaged at such a young age that when I place them in a placement with a family, then the family calls and says they can't take this child because even though they're 5 or 6 or 4, they're aggressive and they're angry and they're fighting with their kids and there's such a disruption. So that just proves how, your early years, it shapes who you are. So it's very important. Okay, chapter 3. Chapter 3 is kind of about developmentally where you are in life. And I'm 61, so I'm in that 60s category. Okay, I didn't like something the chapter said. I mean, I guess I learned something, but I don't agree with it. So the chapter says, once you're in your 60s, you need to accept they have to let go of your dreams. And, you're coming to that cycle where you have to just let go. And I thought, is that how people think? Holy moly. I feel like the 60s, it's like I'm starting my third part of my life, like 60 to 96. And it was interesting how the book was talking like that. So what I learned is that not everybody thinks like me, and a lot of people don't because it's in this book. So I was kind of amazed. I don't know. I just think there's such good things ahead of me. Oh, and there's this new series that I watched. It's called The Golden Bachelor, and he was 72 and he was supposed to pick someone to marry, and the women were in their 60s and some in their 70s, and they were all like healthy and pretty, and they would dress up really nice, have their hairstyle, their makeup, these fancy dresses, and I just loved it because like that was a representation of being older. Not like what I see at work. I'm doing charts, I'm doing referrals, and like people my age and younger, they have all kinds of things, amputations, diabetes, kidneys, dialysis, heart failure. And I'm looking and I'm like, God, this is their life already? And they haven't even entered their 60s. So I guess I learned that I'm in the minority. And I'm never gonna like let go of my dreams. Like my dream is to graduate as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I'm going to graduate when I'm 65, but oh well, I'm going to do it. I'm about 40% done. And I want to, okay, so I know languages, but Japanese was kind of a challenging one. The other ones that I learned, like Portuguese, Italian, French, and Spanish, I grew up, so they're all Latin based. So I had an advantage, and I didn't think they were that difficult. But learning Japanese, not that it's that hard to be honest, but you have to have a lot of time, devote a lot of time. The other languages, I feel like Italian, after 2 months, I understood everything. But that's because I knew Spanish and I knew French. So there was a lot of vocabulary there. That wasn't the case with Japanese. Oh my God. That was so different. But one of the things I liked is that I like the alphabet. They have 3 different alphabets. And I'm not artistic, so I liked how it was kind of pretty, and that's part of the reason why I chose it. Also, I want to go to Japan one day, which I'm going to go, and I want to go to school there, do a language class. That would be so awesome. So that's one of my dreams. I'm going to do that. And I want to go to Brazil too and do a Portuguese one. I just did one in Italian this summer, and it was amazing. It was like the best vacation ever because I was doing something that I enjoyed. So those are my dreams, and no one's going to say that I'm too old for them. Not even the book. All right, chapter 4. Body image. Okay. Now this one, it's a tough one because I kind of know this already. It's not like new news, but there's a difference between knowing and doing. I feel like there's a bridge. So, reading about body image and health, what really hit me, I learned deeper about sleep deprivation, which I've been suffering a lot because working full time and going to school. And it talks about how your brain needs that time to rest, repair, restore. It's like kind of a cleansing of the brain. And if you don't do that, then you're not going to be sharp and you're not going to learn as well and you're going to be vulnerable because your immune system's going to be low. And it's just like how important it is. I mean, I knew it was important, but looking at it black and white and thinking like I'm not getting my brain washed every day, it would be like if I didn't take a shower, and I would just like kind of skip it. And that's what I'm doing with my sleep. So that's something I have to really work on. So I learned how vital it is in this chapter. Of course, there's exercise, diet, and fitness, and that's important. And the diet part, I know because I've been vegan for 13 years, and I know that diet is like your best friend. All the greens, and just being plant-based. I mean, I just feel so much healthier and more full of energy. So I know it's important, and I do practice that one. Okay, now here comes the fitness and the exercise. I've always struggled with exercising. It has to be something fun. Like I enjoy dancing. So if I was dancing for a few hours, I wouldn't think of it as exercise. So what I'm gonna do, my friend was interested in taking some salsa lessons, and I found this place in Pomona called the Coconut Palm Restaurant. And once a month, I think at 8 o'clock, they give you free salsa lessons. I mean, it's once a month, but there's also YouTube videos. And she's going to go on a safari to Kenya next year. So she really wants to be in shape for all that hiking, seeing the gorillas. So I'm looking forward to that because I feel like it'll be encouraging. I'll be moving around and So it just kind of brought to the forefront that I don't exercise. Even though I have a stationary bicycle and I'm supposed to be watching movies as I do it, I finally got it from the garage to my living room and I still haven't gotten on it. So hopefully, I will during the break. Okay, chapter 5, managing stress. What did I learn? Okay, I have poor coping mechanism because when I'm really stressed, I'll tend to overeat. And that's because I'm stressed, and that's a poor mechanism. So, I mean, I think on some level I knew that, but then, you see it, and it's like, oh yeah, I do that. Ugh. Now, what I did learn, though, they talked about resilience, means like when you bounce back, and they talked about hardiness, that you like coping with change and challenges. So I learned that I'm resilient and I'm hardy. I'm resilient because I always come back. I may have, I don't know, whatever happens in life, depression, loss. Well, I'll get to losses in chapter 12. That was a very hard chapter. But I eventually bounce back. Sometimes, not as fast as I'd like to, but I do. And I feel like I'm resilient. And I've just been blessed and I'm very fortunate because I've been through a lot of stuff, but I come out okay. And I'm definitely hardy because I like to do new things and I like to get out of my comfort zone. And I'm not afraid of change. So I'm hardy. I'm hardy in that way. So I learned about that. I never thought of myself as hardy. I thought of hardy as kind of being like, I don't know, like physically hardy. But this talks about psychological hardiness. Okay, oh my God. So I have a lot of stress at work. I just got this new job because it was supposed to help my school schedule and didn't turn out that way. I'll talk about that more in work and recreation. So I'm really stressed out about it. I'm not doing that well. It's really hard for me because my old job, I was there for 9 years and I was at the top of the heap. I was a trainer. I trained all the new nurses. Like I knew everything back and forth. If I didn't have a good night's sleep, I could just do that job in my sleep. It was basically going to medical offices and performing audits, and then you would write a report within 7 days. So at this new job, you really need to be alert and well rested because you're on the computer for 8 hours, and then once I'm off orientation, it's going to be 10 hours. And what's been hard this week is like I feel like I'm on the computer for work for 8 hours, and then I have to do shift 2 for school, and then I'm on my computer again. A lot of computer time. And I'm just so stressed and I'm worried. So my supervisor and her boss are going to meet with me on Friday, and she did talk to me about my productivity, that it's low. So I'm just on step 1. But anyway, I don't want to steal that because I should talk about it more for work. But I guess what I want to bring about that is it causes me stress, and I see that I don't use positive coping techniques. Like, for instance, like they talk in the book about meditation. I actually wanted a meditation retreat, Vaspana, something in oh my God, I can't. And it's 2 hours away, Joshua Tree. So it was 11 days, and you're not allowed to speak. The only time you can speak is during lunch if you want to ask questions to, like, the instructors. That's the only time you can talk. And when you're eating, you face the wall. You don't interact with anybody. You don't look at anybody. And you're supposed to meditate from 4 a.m. It's the first meditation, I think. And until you go to sleep. That's all you do. I had signed up for that 8 months prior. My grandmother had recently passed away, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. I was a mess. So I was actually, I saw the psychiatrist and she gave me something to help me sleep. I think it was trazodone. Because before I was using, what was I using? I was using natural things like valerian and all that stuff, but it wasn't doing it because I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd just be crying. So when I went to the retreat, they said, you cannot have these medications. And I said, oh, I just got it. I've only taken one. And they took them away because they said it would interfere with the meditation. So I thought, okay, now I don't have anything to help me sleep. I'm going to be screwed for 11 days. But honestly, I slept better than ever. It was super quiet and all that meditation. I didn't do the early one. Somebody told me that you can skip it and they won't know because you do it in your room. So I started meditating after breakfast. And then I would meditate the whole day. But I just couldn't see myself getting up at 4 a.m. meditating. So I'm happy that I slept, but I was supposed to do that, and they would do the little siren or something. Everybody start meditating, and I would just ignore it and sleep. So I know for a fact that it helps your sleep, it helps your stress, because I was not in a good place, and I remember being there in that meditation place. The highlight of my day was watching the sunset. I never in my life go look at the sunset. So that was the highlight. I look forward to that. And I remember I would walk a mile. And then they have you on a vegan diet and you don't eat that much because they want your mind to be clear. So meditation for stress, I mean, looking at it, it's a refresher for me. I did that like 11 years ago. It's a long time. And I didn't follow up with the practice. So I learned, or I should say I relearned how important it can be to coping with stress. So instead of me overeating or binging on Netflix, I can, use other methods. And that's something that I know works. Now, what I used to do before the pandemic, I would get massages. They were only $20 for, I think it was an hour. They would massage your feet at these little places, a little Asian place. And I loved it. It was such a relaxing stress reliever. But after the pandemic, those $20 became $50. And it's kind of expensive for me now at $50. I rarely go. But of course, in the book, they talk about that's a way to relieve stress. And yes, it is. But, you have to be in a good financial spot, too. So what else did I do? Oh, yes. I soak in the tub. I put candles. And there's this detox bath. 2 cups of Epsom salt. 2 cups of baking soda. And some lavender oil. And it detoxes you. And you sleep better at night. So I use that once in a while when I'm stressed out. Okay. What else? Oh yeah, I think they talked about journaling, and I used to be an avid journaler, but I'm not anymore. I just do it once in a while. So that was a good reminder. Yeah, and I'm kind of stressed because I feel like I ignore my poor son because I'm at work, and then I'm at school, and I'm always kind of telling him I have to work, I have to go to school. So I feel kind of guilty about that. But we'll talk about that more in Relations chapter. Okay, chapter 6. I don't know how I'm doing on time. Oh my God. I'm just talking too much. Okay, chapter 6, love. Okay, so there's unconditional love, which I know about my son. And then there's the love of things. I have love of languages, of cultures, theater. So I realized that there's different types of love. Usually when I thought of love, I thought about romantic relationships. So this kind of opened me up to there's all kinds of different shapes and sizes. So I've been fortunate in love with my son, with my friends, not with my ex who died. He was kind of verbally abusive, so I didn't have a good relationship. So I can't say that was very loving. So what I do is I do take myself out on dates. Well, I used to when I had more time. Like I would go to a movie or go to dinner. One New Year's Eve, I took myself out for New Year's Eve at this Indian restaurant. It was family style, and everybody was dancing, and I was dancing too. And it was nice. It was close to home. I mean, I could have just stayed home, but I said, no, I want to do something. So that's what I did. Okay. So yeah, I think using good coping mechanisms, they stress that it'll help you. And using ones that are poor mechanisms can make your situation worse, which is true. Chapter 7. Oh, relationships. Okay, so I kind of touched on that. I don't feel I've been good in relationships with men. That's kind of not been a strong suit of mine. I don't know why. I think I'm not a good picker. And I think that, well, I know my ex said I was too independent. And that's true, I guess. Yeah, I like to do my own thing. And I think you have to have someone that's really secure. They do their own thing and they're okay with it. So I am planning to do something about it because they were talking about that in the chapter. There is silver singles, which I'm thinking of maybe joining. Oh, I think I already talked about the Golden Bachelor. I was saving it for relationships. I talked about that already. Okay. Yeah, in the end, the people that got married, he was 72, she's 70. In January, they're going to televise it. And, you know, it's relationships can happen in any age. So I'm trying to have a positive mindset that I'll have one in the future. Let's see, relationships. What else did I say? Oh, they talked about true intimacy. Okay, so this is what I learned about true intimacy. In the chapter, they have like there's authentic and there's not authentic. And the more authentic you are, the more risk you take, you open yourself up, the closer you're going to be, the better the relationship. And I have fears around that with men, not with women or other people. So I learned that if I want to have a good relationship, I have to let my guard down and be more open and vulnerable, which I don't feel comfortable with, but I learned that I should. Okay. Let's see. Oh, relationships. I had a note when I was engaged to somebody, and in my 20s, I was actually 20. The priest said, if you don't have conflict in your marriage, it's not a good marriage because you need to talk things out. You know, there has to be conflict, and that's good. The thing that you have to watch is how you deal with it. Don't be hitting below the belt and, you know, do it in a way that you're not hurting the other person. But yeah, air things out. Otherwise, you're going to be in deep trouble. So when they talked about conflict, I remember the priest saying that. Okay. And communication is number one in relationships. And that I knew. But what brought is they're talking about listening. So what I do with my son, let me talk about listening, because he says I don't listen, and I think it's I'm too tired and overworked. We do what's called the floor technique. I learned this in marriage counseling. Didn't work for me and my husband, but it works for me and my son. So you just grab any object, and while you have the floor, the other person cannot talk, and their job is to listen and rephrase what you said. They can't be thinking what they're going to say next. So I have to do that more often. Oh shoot, is this chapter 8 already? Oh yeah, it's chapter. Okay, I'm going to chapter 8. Becoming who you want to be. So I'm still a work in progress, but I think I have achieved a lot that I wanted to achieve, like nursing and languages and traveling. So I've done some, but I still have a lot more to do. I'm a good friend. I'm a good co-worker. And I'm open-minded. And I think, oh, chapter 8 also talked about gender roles. And I did see about how it talks about the male and the traditional roles and how it's limiting. And I remember when I went to the Leche conference with my husband, and he came out, we would go to different classes, and he said, man, the dads were seeing how the moms are not letting them participate in the infant care, because we're talking like weeks, months, they're really little infants, like, and the moms were very protective. And the thing that's bad about that is that that's how the dad can develop a bond, like bathing the baby, changing the diaper. If the mom does everything, it's not thing. And I think that's gender. We're not born a better parent because we're female. So that was it. And let's see. Oh yeah, another example of gender. We're Knott's Berry Farm. There was this little dust in different colors. My son picked the pink one, and my husband was like, pink. No, he didn't want him to get the pink one. Like, come on, that's so like narrow-minded. Okay, so on to chapter 9, sexuality. Well, what I learned about, let's see, sexuality. What did I learn? I guess I learned that you can do different things different ways. I mean, personally, well, I don't have a partner, so I masturbate. I used to have a vibrator, and then that one broke, and then I got one made by 2 women, and I don't know if I lost it or wore out. And So I do that for my personal sexual stuff. And I miss it, but I don't have a partner, so that's it. But I learned that then sexuality isn't just sex, of course. It's, like cuddling or touching and, sensuality. Um, and different things. So when I was in a relationship, I would like to be playful, like do strawberries and whipped cream and lick them off him, or he wanted me to put ice in his groin area because it made him hard. I mean, we would just kind of change it up. So that's sexuality. And then they talk about, of course, like different, like now with the transgender, and then it was good. I kind of learned more about it's not just male and female anymore. So that was kind of enlightening. Okay, work and recreation. Okay, so I've been an RN for 40 years. Well, it'll be 40 years in February. So I'm a nurse, but right now I'm doing a computer job and I'm struggling with it. I was overjoyed to get it because the schedule would be good for school, but the actual job isn't the best, but it's temporary. And what I learned is a lot of people feel like you need to retire at a certain age. In the book, they're talking about people retiring, and I don't really think about it that much. But I am going to retire eventually, but in a long time from now. So I guess, and recreation, yeah, that you need recreation too, not just work, that it's important. And it talks about that, and that I did know. But it reinforced it. Okay. So yeah, I plan to graduate. I'll be 65. I love movies, theater, and I like hiking with my stepmom. She's 84, and she swims an hour a day. She hikes. She rides her bike. She's phenomenal, and she's a good role model. Okay, chapter 11. I love solitude. I don't get enough of it, but I like it when I can get it. And I don't really feel lonely. I live with my son. I have a lot of friends. I'm busy, so I can't say I feel lonely. But I did learn that a lot of people do feel lonely. And you can be lonely even if you have a partner because you're not connecting. You don't have that intimacy, so you feel lonely. So that it makes sense to me because if you're not in a good relationship, you are going to feel lonely. And if you're by yourself, you don't have any expectations, so it's less likely to feel lonely, I think. But okay, so chapter 12. Oh, this chapter was so hard for me. Death and loss. I feel very uncomfortable with death. I don't like it. I struggle with it. Last few years I had a lot of deaths. I had my mom, my grandmother, my ex-husband, my dog, a friend who committed suicide. This was all in a span of a few years, but I just hate it. But this is what I learned. It says that in order to enjoy your life, you have to embrace death, which I never thought about that because I wasn't up to embracing death. But after reading that, I think, well, maybe I should just accept that one day I'm going to die. And if that's going to make my life more joyous, why not do it? Ugh. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, the stages of dying, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I'm familiar with it. It was a refresher. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And they don't have to go in that order. And of course I learned I haven't grieved my mom yet because I'm avoiding that one. And in order to heal from a loss, you must feel the pain. I wasn't happy to hear that because I have to do that, but I'm always saying I'm too busy. Okay, chapter 13. Meaning of life. I actually have that book by Viktor Frankl, but I haven't read it. And reading this chapter made me think the purpose and the meaning of life. I haven't really given it that much thought. So it was kind of somber in a way. Okay, another thing I learned about was white privilege. I didn't even know that existed. I'm bicultural. I'm Mexican and Irish, and I don't know if I've experienced a lot of prejudice, but they talk about white privilege, like when you're in the store, like someone's not going to be following you around, or the cops won't have their eye on you. Just things that I never thought about. I never thought that was a privilege, but it's interesting. It's interesting to look at it from other cultures' point of view, and they get treated differently. So I guess it is a privilege. So I never thought of it. So I learned that. All right, so it's 9:01 and the final exam starts. So I don't know if I probably took too long. I could have been even longer. And the good thing is that I have a final as I keep on talking. But thank you so much for the class. I really enjoyed it. I hope you have a good break and you keep imparting all this good stuff to new students. Bye. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.